Greetings, Otaku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you yet again another Ultimate Fighter Live episode recap right here on Otaku Assemble! Weekly. As always, I'm here to bring you the latest in this week's Ultimate Fighter Live episode recap. Now, this is episode 5, and the main event in this week's episode was the matchup between Jeremy Larsen, representing Team Cruz, and Michael Chiesa, representing Team Faber. Now, of course, as I did in my other recap videos, I want to address each fighter, their coaches, their training for the matchup, and then we'll discuss the matchup, and then I'll wrap this recap up with my predictions for next week's fight. So, starting off with Jeremy Larsen from Team Cruz. Now, Uriah Faber made the comment that he went after Jeremy because he felt that Jeremy was weak as far as takedowns and wrestling was concerned. And he knows that Michael Chiesa is actually a pro at that. You know, that's Michael's area of expertise. So he felt it would be an easy win. So, of course, Team Cruz, what they decided to do was they were going to prepare him to defend against the takedown. I mean, that was pretty much the main goal. You know, as far as what would actually take place on the ground, they didn't really focus on that too much because here's the thing. If you can prevent the takedown, the fight would never go to the ground. So that was number one. That was priority number one. And so their main focus for that, their main key in order to bring that whole thing about was controlling the cage. Using the cage to your advantage to prevent the takedowns. And so that was Jeremy's training. Now, as for Michael Chiesa, what Uriah Faber and the rest of the coaching team, they wanted him to be more aggressive with his takedowns because they knew the key to victory is on the ground. Once Michael could get Jeremy on the ground, he could oppose his will on him absolutely and take this fight. So get more aggressive with the takedowns. And of course, the keys to victory for each fighter, for Jeremy, it was defend the takedown and keep the fight standing up. Keep it from going to the ground. And the flip was for Michael. His key to victory was go for the takedown, get the fight on the ground. And so what happens now that we've got into the fight, it went 2 rounds, and for the most part, I will say that for the first half of the first round, it seemed like each fighter was sticking to their game plan. I mean, we saw Michael go for a couple of takedown attempts, and we saw Jeremy use the cage to his advantage. But then, of course, all it takes is for one slip-up to turn the tide of the fight, and that's what happened in Jeremy's case. Jeremy got caught a few times, especially in the first round when he got slammed by Michael, and then, of course, the controversial illegal knee, which, once again, Jeremy trying to use the cage to his advantage, and Michael landing the illegal knee. And then, of course, by the time we got to the second round, I think what happened in that round was that Jeremy lost steam. He kind of lost some steam. He started to move a little bit slower, and that allowed for Michael to kind of kick it up a notch, to charge at him, full charge. And we saw it. Michael was working Jeremy that second round. He was going for takedowns. He was grabbing him. They were clinch grappling almost the entire round. And so, and in the end, Michael came away with the decision victory, which I actually do agree with, if nothing else, mainly because Michael was attempting more transitions than Jeremy was. So, and like I say, it's not so much that all of the transitions were successful, because they weren't. Jeremy was actually able to defend a lot of those transitions, but Michael was executing them, whereas Jeremy spent much of the fight on the defense. So for that, I have to give, I would have to agree with the decision. Also consider this. Jeremy, while he did use the cage to his advantage, Michael placed Jeremy at the cage for the majority of the fight. You know, whenever they got to the cage, that's because Michael was charging in that direction. Because of that, I felt that Michael was actually the one who had octagon control, and he was the one that was pushing the pace of the fight. So I agree with the judge's decision to give Michael that win. And of course, my prediction for this fight was that Michael would win it. As I've said before, Michael is actually one of my top 3 to win the entire competition. So I'm glad that he won and that he's moving on to the quarterfinals. So as far as prediction goes, that put me 3-1. But now I want to give my predictions for next week's fight. Now, next week's fight, now that Team Faber has won again, tied it up 2-2, and now that they're, still in control, what Uriah Faber decided to do was, for Team Cruz, he sought out Chris Tickle, and he decided to choose the guy that Chris wanted to fight when they first came into the house, and that's Joe Proctor. So I have to say this is a very hard prediction to make, but I'm going to have to go with Proctor. And the reason for that being is because I have my doubts about Tickle. Personally, in my personal opinion, Tickle is this season's version of Jamie Yeager, for any of you all who remember that season. And what I'm saying is, Tickle is outlandish. He is very outspoken, very, flamboyant. He's the jokester. But he got into the house with a very quick, decisive knockout win. And if you all will remember, I believe that was the season, it was Team Liddell versus Team Ortiz. That was the season that had Jamie Yeager. And the same thing with Jamie Yeager was that same thing. Outspoken, outlandish, flamboyant, and he won due to knockout. But Jamie could not go the distance at all. Outside of round 1, he was completely gassed, and that led to his downfall. I think the same might happen to Tickle. I think Proctor will actually push Tickle late into the fight, and I don't think Tickle would be able to keep up with him. Now, do I want Tickle to win? Yes, I want Tickle to win. I want to see Team Cruz take control of the competition again. But thinking of it critically and thinking of it analytically, I think Proctor actually has the advantage. So that's who my prediction for next week's fight is going to be. I'm going with Proctor and Team Faber. So I want to thank you all for joining me again this week. In the comments below, let me know what you thought of this week's fight, and let me know what your predictions for next week's fight is. What else to stay tuned for later this weekend? Thundercats review coming up tomorrow. I may even, I'm actually considering reviewing the first 2 episodes of the new Ultimate Spider-Man animated series, and then of course Sunday night will be my Game of Thrones review. So this has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief. I'm signing off, and until next time, peace.